Hi everyone, welcome to our class. I'm teacher Maite, and today we're going to be talking about modals of speculation. So, what are modals of speculation and when do we use it? Modal verbs we use to express how sure or unsure we are about something. They help us make guesses based on evidence or logic. So, to start with, let's talk about modals for speculation in the present. So, when you're talking about the present, you first use must for when you're almost certain about something, can't or couldn't for when the thing you're talking about is almost impossible, and may, might, or could for when the thing is possible but you're not really sure. So, the structure is first you say the subject, then the modal, and then the base verb. Let's see some examples. The first one is she must be at work. Her car is outside. Here you can see that the modal verb must is being used because the person is almost sure. They have a clue, that is, her car is outside. That's why they use must, because they're almost certain about it. And here you can also see that the structure is correct because first they say the subject, she, then the modal, must, then the base verb, be at work. The next example is he can't be serious. He's joking. So in this case, the person probably said something very absurd that there's no way this thing is serious. The person wouldn't have said it seriously. That's why they use the modal verb can't, because they are almost sure that this thing is impossible. That the fact of this being serious is impossible. That's why they say he can't be serious. And once again, the structure is correct. First they say the subject, he, then the modal, can't, and then the base verb, be serious. So here in the next case, we have the sentence. They might be studying for the test. Here you can see that there's a possibility that they are studying for the test, but you're not really sure. You don't have many clues. That's why you say might. You could also use may or could. They're the same thing. And once again, the structure is correct. The subject is they, the modal is might, and the base verb be studying. So now let's talk about modals for speculation in the past. So the structure is first you say the subject, then the modal, then you say have, and the verb in the past participle. And now when you use must, can, or couldn't, or may, might, and could, you can use them again with the same rules. Must for almost certain, can't, couldn't for almost impossible, and may, might, could for possible. But now you use the structure with have plus the base verb in the past participle. Let's see some examples. He must have left early. The lights are off. So they use must because they have an evidence for why they must have left early. That is, the lights are off. And here you can see that they use the correct structure. Must, that is the modal, have, that is mandatory, and left, that is the verb to leave in past participle. So the next example is, she can't have taken your phone. She wasn't here. So the subject is she, and then the modal is can't because it's almost impossible that she took your phone. That's why you use can't. Have, that is mandatory, and then the verb to take in the past participle, taken. And now in the last example is, they might have forgotten the meeting. So you can see that the verb to forget is in the past participle. They use the have and they're using the modal might because they're not sure about it, but there's a possibility that they have forgotten the meeting. So now the modals for speculation in the future are different. So you say will probably for when you're almost certain about something, and may, might, or could when there's a possibility of something to happen. So let's see some examples. She'll probably call tomorrow. So you're almost certain that she will call tomorrow. And it might rain tomorrow, which means there's a possibility that it will rain tomorrow. So let's do some exercises so you can practice and see if you understood. Rewrite this using a model of speculation. I'm sure he is tired. He must be tired. You use must because you're almost sure about it. Now, um, um, complete the sentence using a modal of speculation and using the verb to see in the correct tense. She can't have seen the email. I just sent it 1 minute ago. So as you sent it 1 minute ago, it's almost impossible that she saw the email. That's why it's she can't have seen. Because it's also for you're talking about a modal of speculation in the past. That's why you use have seen and not saw or see. Now you just choose the correct modal for the sentence. The lights are off. They blank be at home. The answer is can't, because as the lights are off, it's almost impossible that there's someone at home, because if there was, the lights would be on. This was it for today. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this lesson.